Irish Joe, with Irish Joe, with Irish Joe. Sometimes it's good to just yell about football. What are you doing? Don't do this to me, Harry! The Ohio State. It's Ohio State! What do you mean, the? It's a poison. I almost stroked out and died over it. I'm glad to be at the party. I'm mad we're this late. You ain't a captain of nothing but a sinking ship. That helps the defense without them even doing a damn thing. Doing a damn thing. The call-in line. 312-988-15. You tell Johnny all you've heard and seen. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Irish. Yeah, that's right. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Oh, Irish. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Welcome back, folks, to a hazy, at least it's hazy where I'm at, due to the Canadian wildfire smoke, a hazy Work It Out Wednesday edition of the Always Irish Morning Radio Show. As always, I am thrilled to be here. I'm happy to have you guys with me. As always, you can find the program on YouTube. Do it. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Appreciate it very much. Give the video a thumbs up. Appreciate that as well. Notifications on. You and I both know why. That way you're alerted every time a new episode drops. You don't want to miss it. Twitter, search bar, Always Irish, at Always Irish Inc. Emails, alwaysirishnd@gmail.com. Audio only. Anywhere you want me, you can locate me. The call-in line. You should know it by now. Have it programmed as your emergency contact number in your cell phone. 312-988-15. Actually, don't do that. I don't want to be responsible. You get in a car accident and I'm your safety number. And they call in here. What are we going to do with this guy? What were we pulling the plug? What are we doing? I don't want that kind of responsibility. So maybe I open my mouth too quick. Don't put me down as your emergency contact. But what you should do is open up your computer every morning and type in Fighting Irish Wire and then read articles John and everybody else writes about your favorite college football team, the one that dictates, got to be careful on that one, the one that dictates all of our collective happiness or misery. It is wild. It is wild in my circle, meaning in my family, in my life, on social media. It is wild how much our collective happiness or misery depends on what this football team does. And I'm telling you this right now, damn it, I wouldn't want it any other way. Even though it rarely works in our favor, and there's a lot of depression among the fan base, a lot of these falls, I wouldn't want it any other way. I love how much we love this football team and let what they do dictate our emotions. It's amazing. And I could argue that it's not letting them. It just happens. It wouldn't matter how much I tried to divest. If things weren't going good, I was going to be miserable no matter what. So that's that. And also, don't forget, folks, we're creeping up on it. July 9th, Sam Hartman's first public NIL autograph signing since being a member of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. It's taken place at Forever Young Sports Cards in Crown Point. John Kennedy is the sponsor of the event. Come on out. We're going to have a great day. Meet Sam Hartman. Get yourself an autograph. Get your kid an autograph. Hang out with me. Tell me all your Notre Dame anxieties. Tell me what you're confident about. Throw some bags around in the parking lot while you're waiting to get in the building. We're going to have ourselves a great day. Here's how I'm looking at it, you guys. I'm looking at it as kind of the beginning of ramping up here. That's kind of what it signifies. We're going to get through the holiday. Don't blow off your digits. It's not worth it. I know what some of you are going to do. Drink 10 or 12 cold ones and have an idea to light some bottle rockets out of your hand or something. Don't do it. Be smarter than that. Don't do it. But we're going to get through the 4th of July. And then we have the Sam Hartman event And that's kind of going to be the unofficial ramp up. Few more weeks and we're into camp. And then we get this baby really cranked up. And then we start talking about Navy anxieties, what to expect with Navy. Should we play them all the time? What you need to worry about with Navy. They got a new coach. They got a new quarterback. You're going to Ireland. There's a lot going on there. We're going to have to talk about. And oh, by the way, don't forget, Notre Dame struggled with Navy mightily last year. I'm just telling you, we gave up a lot of yards. That fullback had a lane to run most of the afternoon. I don't like it at all. We're going to get into that, but we're not there yet. We're not there yet for me to crank up that whole discussion, but we're going to get there. And so the Sam Hartman event is going to be kind of my unofficial ramp up to get this baby really cranking with the Notre Dame anxiety and getting into this season. So that's what's going on. And we're inching ever closer to camp here, and it can't get here soon enough. So something I want to go over today. Listen, we've been talking about big picture things lately, bigger picture stuff, meaning, Notre Dame overall, how things are going with recruiting, a lot of recruiting talk, philosophical stuff about the administration and where Notre Dame's challenges to compete in the modern era and what's coming in the modern playoff era, what we need to do to compete there. The new AD, the clothing deal, the TV deal, like conference realignment. We've been talking about a lot of bigger picture philosophical stuff. Today, I was hoping we could zone it back into like on the field this year. What's coming? The players we have, the position groups we have. And I wanted to get a read from you guys on that aspect of this. Now, I will say, I love the philosophical and existential Notre Dame stuff. I love that. That is just a favorite niche of mine to go to, especially in the summer when it's not the week-to-week grind and the accelerated schedule and you only have a few days to worry about a game and you're on to the next one. And there's these big marking points that aren't philosophical. It's what's in front of you to react to. What's good enough? What isn't good enough? How we played, how we performed, all of that. And so the summer's a great time to explore all of those philosophical things. I don't want to forget about the players now. So much of this gets wrapped into recruiting and the future. Sometimes I feel like we're overlooking what's right in front of us. The guys we have now, the guys that in about a month are going to be lacing up for practice, getting ready for the season. And I want to ask you guys a couple questions, all right? And feel free to call in. 312-900-8815. You don't have to talk about this, but if you want to throw it in, that'd be nice as the topic of the day. But I want to know where your trust lies with this roster. I want to know from you guys, and I see a bunch of good chats we're going to go through. I want to know what position groups you trust entering next year. By trust, I mean their baseline play in your mind when you think about this group is going to be good enough to win all of our games. Like high quality, reliable, consistent, good, strong play. And you just don't have to question it. Pretty much week in, week out, that's what you're going to get out of this position group or this specific player or players. I am just wondering where you're all at on that. Now, I understand. Here's the other thing. I understand everybody feels and thinks differently about things. You may have a trust level with something, I may not. Like we may have different bars of what you have to get to, different levels of what you have to get to that would make you say, I feel comfortable or I trust what I'm going to get out of this unit. The other thing is, when I thought about last night when I'm putting the notes together for this, what I had in mind is when I'm thinking of who do I trust, it's in the big three. That's how I'm looking at it. It's not who do I trust to be able to get by Central Michigan. No. Not ultimate, not so fast, my friend. I'm talking about What levels do I trust that I think this guy or this position group's going to hold up against the best teams we play? Those three big dogs. All right. There's a different standard of, do I think, the offensive line can hold up against Central Michigan as opposed to Ohio State, right? Those are different. So my bar to feel comfortable is at the high level. I know this guy in this group can compete against the best teams that we play on the schedule. All right. And so I would be very, very interested to see what you guys think about that. Who's calling me? Somebody just said, hold on, something might have just broke with Notre Dame land. Let's see. I don't know if I could say this or not. I'm getting weird messages here about Notre Dame, which is odd to me. Whenever the phone vibrates when I'm live, it usually means something broke with Notre Dame that I'm not aware of. Has anything dropped with the apparel deal? Anybody? Anything at all? I'm getting a couple weird messages about that, and I don't know if that is inside information. I don't want to blow it and say what I'm being told on text because I don't have time in the moment now to verify and call somebody and ask about it because we're live. Is anything broken with the apparel deal? Because I just got a couple messages about that. Somebody asked me that. Terrence, by the way, I got you. You're going to be the first one coming up, 618. I believe that's you, I think, 618. I got you. But somebody look up the athletic apparel deal for Notre Dame. See if any news broke. I just got some messages that are weird. Somebody go on Twitter or do something because that's weird to me. Multiple people that give me information have just texted me something. Somebody look that up. Tell me if there's any news on that front. And if not, it must just be insider info. Let's see. Got another one. I'm not trying to ruin the show. I think it could help it. All right. Multiple people are telling me it looks like maybe we're going to re-sign with Under Armour. Can anybody verify that? I don't know why, but that's the messages I'm getting right now. Multiple people have messaged that to me. I don't know if that is a rumor. I don't know if that's a rumor on social media or where people are getting that from, but a couple people just messaged me that it looks like that's what they're doing. So I don't know whether that's real or not, and I don't know where that's coming from, but a couple people have mentioned it. So, all right, maybe, I don't know, maybe we're breaking some news here, but it's weird to me that right when I went live, multiple people said there's something cooking with that. And the other thing is, if Notre Dame did re-up with Under Armour, I don't know. Whatever. I don't want to turn that into this because I don't know what it is, but it's like Nike. I feel like Under Armour needs Notre Dame more than Nike or Jordan might need Notre Dame. Does that make sense? Like, I think that's what I'm comfortable saying about it, is that Under Armour might need Notre Dame in a way Jordan and Nike don't because of the positions those companies are in. Maybe in that regard, Under Armour was willing to give more to Notre Dame or bend on more things financially to Notre Dame because of that need. I don't know. But that's interesting to have multiple texts saying that, especially if there's nothing out on social media yet. Somebody must have heard something to make that happen. All right. So here's the deal. I want to get back to this. What position groups and players do you trust? Meaning, you're going to get a pretty high level of play out of them every time that ball is kicked off. And where do you feel uncomfortable? I want to be clear about this before we enter the discussion. By uncomfortable, I don't mean that they're going to be bad. It doesn't mean like if I have a question and I can't trust you, that they're condemned to be awful this year. That's not what I mean. I just mean I got to believe it to see it, to trust it. That's what I mean by that. When I say I can't trust it, it doesn't mean every one of those groups is destined to be very bad statistically this year. No. It just means in my mind, I can't go into a big game trusting that I'm going to get great play out of these guys before I see great play out of these guys. I want to be very, very clear about that. Like, it's not condemning to negativity. It's just, I can't trust you till I've seen you do it. And I know I could trust you. And I believe that's a perfectly fair position. Perfectly fair position. T-Rex, good morning. Only question is the wide receiver room. What about the whole defense? What about the whole defense other than Morrison? Like, that is one of the revelations I've come to. And maybe I have trust issues, you guys. But if you're saying your only question's the wide receiver room, I'm asking, are you sure the defensive line is going to be able to stop the run and get after the quarterback? Are you sure we're going to get better linebacker play, more consistent linebacking play as a unit and the individuals in it? Are you sure that you have enough guys you trust to help Morrison out on the back end? I'm not. And I'm not trying to be a bad guy. I'm not trying to be negative. But when I look at those names on that defensive line, I got questions how they're going to hold up against the best teams we play. Those linebackers, sometimes they were fine. Sometimes they looked like a mess out there. And then that secondary, it's Morrison. And I don't know what everything else makes me nervous. That's the only guy that week in, week out played enough for me to trust. I'm sorry. But that's interesting. And if you want to talk about the wide receiver room, 618, you're first up. Stay with me. With the wide receiver room, here, yes, there's like a lot of unknowns there. However, a quarterback that can make all the throws, throw people open, lead guys to open areas, make the right reads, know how much time he has to do what, know how to make good progressions without rushing. All of that is going to help those wide receivers out. Those wide receivers could look a lot better than they probably should early on if Sam Hartman's able to do what I think he's able to do, which is just use his experience to be himself. And so I don't know. I don't know. T-Rex, my question to you, though, I watched your video about ND never winning a championship again. In that video, you stated ND wasn't in a position to win now. I think that's baloney. What do you mean? In that video, I said Notre Dame can win it, but they just have almost no margin for error. That was my point. Right before I even read the article, that's the first thing I said is that it's possible, but Notre Dame has a much smaller margin for error. If you're asking about doing it this year, maybe I don't see that just because I think they're short on proven talent in a lot of areas. That could change throughout the year, I suppose. But I think I said that it's certainly possible, but Notre Dame has a very small margin for error and a lot of things have to go perfect for them to do it. And I do think that. So I disagree, or maybe I misspoke or something, but I remember very early on in that video stating it could be done, but Notre Dame's got to be almost perfect and have a lot of things go their way. If ND isn't in a position to win now, who is? Georgia, Bama, Ohio State? Why not ND? Well, on the surface, all those teams have way more talent than ND. So, like, if we're going to go down that road, then that'd be my answer. You can't compare those rosters. They're not close in terms of raw talent. So, like, if you're asking why among those teams, that'd be my reason. The other ones all have way more talent and way more depth than Notre Dame. But yeah, if you want to talk about the quarterbacks and stuff, sure. Hartman can balance a lot of that out. But I'm going to push back. I didn't say Notre Dame can't do it. The first 5 minutes of the video were me saying they could do it. They just have a smaller margin for error to do it. That's what I said. I'm optimistic about our wide receivers, even the defense, but they are still both questions in my mind. Yeah, I think that's fair. And that's kind of what I mean when I say I'm not saying something that's on the question ledger is destined to be bad. It's just a matter of I cannot. This ain't my first rodeo. How many times in your life have you gotten burned thinking you could trust Notre Dame to handle something and learning the hard way they can't? Like, football trust has to be earned. It's not just granted to you because you're wearing my team's colors. That's not how my trust level works. Just because you're on Notre Dame's team, everything's going to be fine and you're going to be good enough. No, you have to prove it to me to earn my trust. That when I see your group out there, I know you're going to do what it takes to put us in a position to win that game. That's it. What else does Domer guy got here? I trust Joe Alt. I want to say Artman, but even he is unproven against competition we're about to face this year. As a whole, I trust the offense. Question everywhere else. Here's the thing with that offensive line. I feel really good about the twin towers of terror at tackle, meaning Alt and Fisher. I have anxiety inside. Billy Boy Shrouth, Zeke, Christophic, whoever. You don't have time to gel. You got to have it together right away. I am concerned about holding up inside. Those tackles, I trust. I suspect. Assuming reasonable health. One of the only ways Notre Dame's offense does not take a big jump in terms of time of possession and points scored per week would be dire injuries, meaning Hartman, all your important people, whatever. Hartman, Estime, the best two receivers, something, half the offensive injury, or that interior offensive line. I just have a little anxiety about trusting them to get the push I need and not cave inside against the better teams we play. So I think the offense is in line for a big jump forward unless you have a rash of injuries or that interior O-line doesn't hold up in the biggest moments. You might be able to hold up against Central Michigan or Tennessee State or whatever. That ain't what I'm talking about. That's not the levels here we need. I'm talking about, are you going to get run game push against Ohio State's front? Are you going to protect Hartman long enough to let him scan the field against Ohio State, USC, and Clemson? If you could do it against those teams, I don't have to worry about you doing it against those below them, the lower teams on the schedule. So I don't know. It'd be easy for me to sit here and say Artman's going to go off, but the truth is we have inexperienced wide receivers. So until I see it with my eyes, it's a question. Domer guy, that's fair. If you want to take that approach on it, I can't disagree with you. I understand that. I think that's fair. The one thing I think is Hartman should be the tide that raises all ships. And I want to be very clear about what I mean here. Hartman does not have to be a Heisman caliber quarterback this year to instantly make Notre Dame's offense way more dangerous than we are used to. All right, I want to repeat that. Hartman does not have to play out of his mind Heisman caliber level to make this offense look way, way, way better. Sometimes I remind Notre Dame fans, we have no concept at all in recent Brian Kelly and the beginning of the Freeman era. We have no idea what a normal real world offense looks like. We have no idea. Wouldn't know. It's been too many years. And what I mean by that is a situation where in the biggest games, an opposing defense must defend the pass and run game of Notre Dame. And by pass game, I don't just mean shading an extra guy over the tight end, and then that's your pass game. No, I mean the whole field. We don't know what that's like. Hartman does not have to be lights out Heisman caliber to provide that. And that opens everything up for Notre Dame. It opens up the run game when a defense has to worry about you passing it over them or behind them or through them. It's going to change everything. And it should make running the ball even easier because you're not going to have everybody crashing the line to just stop the run on first and second down and then guard the tight end on 3rd and 7, and then you're off the field. We have no concept of what a modern, productive, real, competitive offense looks like. Hartman, without doing anything spectacular, can provide that just because I believe he has a better handle of throwing guys open and making reads and not panicking and all this leading guys and throwing balls where mostly our guys could get it and the other guys can't, like all this nuance stuff in a 6-year guy you should have. And so how I see that relating to the wide receivers is I'm hopeful he will be able to help bring those guys along, bring that group along. We now believe there's a lot of potential in the wide receiver room, but not a lot of proven. Maybe he's a guy that could bring that along and bring it out of guys in a way Drew Pine couldn't when his biggest battle was being able to see where to throw the ball and I hope he could get it over our linemen and their linemen. Like, it's a different level of problem when you're worried about even getting the pass over the line than Hartman scanning everybody to see where the best yardage is to gain. You're just dealing with a different cut of cat. All right. And I think that's going to raise everything. That being said, Merriweather got to be a dude. They got to use him more. They got to lean into him and let him emerge. Colsey, same thing, man. Dude, it's time to step up big time. Jaden Thomas is turning into old reliable, and I like that. He's not going to wow you, but he's going to catch the balls, be reliable out there. I like having that stable piece that I trust to do the basic stuff right. I like that in him. Greathouse, you might have to be great early, dog. Like, I don't know what else to say because of the numbers. Greathouse, you might have to be great, or if not great, serviceable early. Tyree, ooh, now we're hitting on something. Tyree, this could be Notre Dame's secret weapon if he's used correctly. That guy could be sneaky, a sneaky weapon in that wide receiver room, especially if you could get teams worrying about things deep. That gives Tyree all sorts of room in between to operate. Fine little area. I'm picturing some little slip screens and all kinds of stuff to him to get him in the ball in space. I love that. Tyree should be like an ace in the hole. You're able to do stuff. And I don't just mean like gimmicky little stuff. Like once a game, a gimmick piece. I think he could cause trouble for defenses all over. Move him around, slip screens, little crossing patterns. You could do all sorts of stuff with him. I am really hoping he is a dangerous secret weapon for Notre Dame. You got to use him right. Use him right. Pick your spots to try and clear him some space and get him the ball. Okay, get him the ball. Let's see what else we have here. We got a couple calls. We're going right to them in a minute. Andrew says, units I trust. QB and linebackers on D. With Hartman, you have a top 10 QB, enough said. Everybody's critical of linebackers, but this year they'll take a major step forward. I just need more consistency out of that group. Like, I just do. I just, it's too many times it just looked disjointed, or the timing was off, or there was something that wasn't lining up right. Like it just felt off. Now, I'm not an X's and O's expert. You know that. I don't claim to be anything I'm not. But I could just see and feel something was off. A half second on the timing, or just, there was just something off too often with this group. So I know Bertrand takes stuff for being slow. Marist and his hair flying into a blocker, never getting home on a blitz. Like, I just need to see more consistency. Be where I need you to be more often when I need you to be there. You do that early in the year, maybe I'll feel better about you entering Ohio State. Okay? But if those older guys aren't getting it done, then I want Snead and Ziegler and Osbury and all these guys. Give them a shot. Give them a shot. I do not have the patience to see some of those problems again. I'd rather see a young guy running around making plays off instinct. If I'm going to have older guys that just aren't where I need them to be and they're not as athletically gifted as the younger guys, then I'll take the breaks of having the athletic guy learning on the fly. I can't do it again. So they're not terrible, but I need more consistency week in, week out for that group. I hope they take a major step forward. I really, really do. I really do. Bertrand was awesome against Clemson. Kaiser more than serviceable. Snead as a nose for the football. I think if used correctly, he could get on the QB. Hopefully something clicks for Marist. Yeah. And I think I just the hair, man. I always see his hair flopping around, not getting home, and it drives me absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. C. Jones. Morning, John. I will take our O-line any day of the week. I trust this group to protect Hartman this season. Like I already said, I trust the tackles. I have my questions inside. And it may be fine to get by Navy, and it may be fine to get by Central Michigan. How are you going to hold up against Ohio State? Offensive line is a question mark till I see that they can, one, run the ball efficiently against Ohio State, and number two, keep Hartman up in passing situations against Ohio State. I cannot trust more than just the tackles till I see those two things happen in that ball game. No, not against Navy. No, not against Central Michigan. Those are going to make me feel better about it, but I'm not going to know for sure till I see how you hold up against those groups. Andrew, I do not trust wide receiver. I'm sorry, I need to see it to believe it. That's totally fair. Thomas runs with the piano on his back. He does, but at least he catches the balls that are thrown to him. Colsey's in the witness protection program. We just covered that. He's got to emerge. It's his time or he's going to get passed by. It's that simple, folks. ND has squandered Tyree's career so far. Rely on freshmen. I think Greathouse is going to have to make plays this year just by the numbers. And the other thing is, we're talking about some anxieties with all this, and that's with everybody healthy. Everybody isn't going to be healthy all year. You know that you're going to have injuries that pop up at some point in subjuncture here. So that's going to be an issue. And the Tyree factor, I already mentioned. I want to see him used right, which is get him the ball in space and then let him wreak havoc and zig and zag all over and run fast. A frontline runner handing him the ball was never that guy's strength. It was never going to be. Find ways to get him the ball in space, damn it. That's the way. Andrew again. O-line should be our strength, but are they mentally tough enough to push OSU around like Michigan has done? If I was Marcus Freeman, I'd ride this group all offseason, get them mad and wanting to kill OSU. There you go, Andrew. Man, it's just wild. Same wavelength, man. Same wavelength. Like he's saying what I just said. What are you going to get against Ohio State? Let me see what you do then, and then I'll know. Domer guy, how can you trust Hartman if you don't trust the wide receivers? Again, I think what Hartman brings to the table can accentuate that wide receiver room. It can accelerate their growth and development. Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, Andrew. Good point. Looking at the spring game, he puts the ball in the right place every play, throws guys open, makes it easier for them to catch passes, not harder. So that's the hope, is that what he brings to the table is going to be able to kind of help those wide receivers along, get them integrated, get them up to speed. That'd be the hope anyways. That would be the hope. All right, I'm going to go to a couple calls and try and highlight some more of these comments as we're doing that. Let's get into it. 618, good morning.
Hey, how you doing, John?
I'm doing very well. I'm sure you're a man with many Notre Dame opinions. I would love to know what parts of this team you feel you could trust going into the year, and which ones are still question marks to you, and why? Do you have any opinions on that?
Oh, the tackles, definitely the tackles. Both of them are probably first-round tackles. So, yeah, I trust the tackle. Matter of fact, I trust the offensive line, period.
That's what I was going to ask. I'm glad you bring that up. I was going to ask you, do you have any anxiety in the interior, in the middle of that offensive line? I think we all feel pretty good about the tackles. You trust inside they're going to be able to hold up and get pushed against the Buckeyes?
Yeah. I think we fixed the Buckeyes around, man. You know, they tend to be pretty soft. I know last year was the first game of the year trying to get everything together. So, you know, it, we basically lost that game because we wasn't ready. We weren't ready for the moment. And this year they have games up under their belt with Hartman, man. I think we run the ball pretty well this year, man, because they're gonna be thinking so much about the pass, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And then with the wide receiver group, there are some unknowns there. Are you confident that Hartman's going to be able to kind of move those guys along with his skill set, kind of like we saw in the blue and gold, throwing guys open, making it easy to get the ball to them and make them not have to do all the work? You know, you have a guy that can make the throws and lead you the right way and all that. Like, are you confident we're going to see that group really take a rise this year?
Yes. I think this group gonna be way better than what last year was.
Yeah.
Because Tommy Reese, man, to me, man, he didn't. Man, I wasn't it. Stephanie is doing such a great job of coaching these guys up, man, and he didn't. Tommy Reese didn't give them guys a chance last year, and mark my word, man, Greyhound might be the best receiver we got.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. But I do understand what you're saying. At times, it seemed like even what they were given the opportunity to do was pretty limited. But again, how much of that was tied to Drew Pine's limitations? Reese probably felt like I'm limited in what I want to do no matter what I want to do now, because it was such a struggle with Pine because of his physical limitations. Not his fault, but just his physical limitations and his experience level. It made it really hard to get a lot done. When you combine that with the wide receiver room, that was pretty barren to begin the year. We were in a bad spot all year last year in both those positions.
Yeah. So I think this year will be a lot better. And you got a better quarterback this year than you had last year. Either of the guys, you know.
Yep.
You know.
And then wait, let me ask you this. Before you get to your concerns, let me ask you this. This is something I was thinking about last night too. I'm sure you'll have an opinion on this. With Logan Diggs leaving, we all feel pretty good about Estime, the Jerome Bettis Jr. there. We feel good about him. You're going to need some lightning to his thunder. With Diggs gone, who do you think is going to be that number 2 lightning to the Estime Thunder at running back? Who do you think that's going to be?
If given the opportunity, I think Love.
See, but that's interesting because we haven't even seen him at all. So it makes me wonder if Jabron Payne is going to be the first guy to get those reps because he has the experience. Yeah, because Price is coming back off the injury, and Love, none of us have seen yet. It makes me wonder where that's going to fall.
I think Love is the better out of the three. Out of the three you just named, Love is the better. But then the guy from Penn State, I don't know, what he brings to the table either.
Yep. That's a good point too. So they're going to have some options there. And that Penn State guy may even be in the mix for some special teams as well. So that could be a guy that's running back some punts or something. So they have options there. But there are debates of how much you want to ride Estime as far as how many carries is too many every down back. Some people don't see him that way. Some do. That's very interesting. Flip it over to the other side, man. What are you anxious about? What gives you some anxiety?
It's the D-line.
Yep, completely understandable. Explain to me why. What's got you nervous? Is it holding up against the run? Is it getting after the quarterback, or is it both?
I think it's going to be a little bit of both, and getting after the run and getting after the quarterback. You know, we're going to need somebody who can get out. Man, hopefully Baptiste, man, is what the little bit of we've seen him in the spring, man. Hopefully Baptiste bring that to the table.
Yep, we're going to need that. And let me ask you this. Are you confident there's enough around Morrison on the back end that you're gonna not be freaking out every time a deep pass is thrown, that it's going over us? Are you confident we're going to be able to hold up on the back end other than him?
And we're getting after the quarterback. We ain't got to worry about that, John.
That's a good
You got to
point.
be getting up to the quarterback.
That's a good point. Yep. If you do enough of that, then it relieves the pressure on the back end. What about those linebackers, man? They're often debated. Some people say they do a pretty good job.
Man,
Other people weren't impressed last year. Where do you fall on that?
See, that was my most concerns. I didn't know if it was the D line or it was the linebackers the most, but I do have a concern about the linebackers.
Yeah. And so do you think that some younger guys will get a mix in that rotation? Do you want to see more of Snead out there? See what some of those younger guys could do that maybe are more athletic but don't have the experience of the older guys?
Man, one thing you can't coach speed. So, yeah, I like to see the linebacker faster and being in the right position, man, and being where they need to be, where they're supposed to be.
You know what? You bring up a good point. You can't teach speed with linebackers. You know what else you can't teach is instincts that the best linebackers tend to have, are those instincts of knowing where the play's going, knowing where you need to be, knowing how to get your guys in position. All of the best linebackers you can name in college and the pros have that natural gift to just be able to feel a play and know where to be. And I love that about linebackers, that instinctual nature the best ones have. And I want to see somebody emerge here and be the leader of that group that I trust to get it all figured out.
Right.
Can I ask you something else? You're going to like this. You're going to like this question. This one's right for you, man. This is right up your alley. I read some interesting things about Justin Scott recently. Sounds like Miami isn't as much of a factor, and it might come down to a Notre Dame-Michigan battle. I read that yesterday. Do you have any opinions on this?
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. I think what happened over the summer that he commits to Miami, and I think when the day he signs, it's either going to be with Michigan or it's going to be with Notre Dame.
Man, I'm not going to react well if we lose out to him to Michigan. That's going to be a dark day on this show, my friend. I am not going to react well to that news.
But I'm not going to react well if Michigan get Justin Scott over Notre Dame. I'd rather see him. My thing is, I'd rather see him commit early to a Southern school, and then we know late. They're going to make the late push. One thing we got to do, we got to get him back on campus.
Yeah.
We got to get him back on campus.
Yep. Yeah, but that was very interesting to read. And I got to give Michigan credit. I give them a hard time, but they really are on the rise in recruiting. So I give them credit, whatever they're doing. Maybe they got some Jumpman NIL action going on now behind the scenes or something. Because I'm telling you, man, or maybe it's a matter of they won the Big Ten a couple times and they're not worried Harbaugh's going to the NFL anymore. And that's all it takes to get 4-star guys into Michigan. I don't know, but I got to admit, as much as I hate it, their recruiting's on the uptick, and I hate it every day.
Yeah, man. I still think in the end that Justin Scott winds up signing with Notre Dame because of one thing you can say, man. Like I said on Monday, Miami gave him his best punch. He still haven't committed. Georgia gave him the best punch.
Yeah.
He still didn't commit.
Yep. Nope. That's a very good point.
Even Michigan gave him the best they could give, and he still haven't committed. So I think he's really thinking about Notre Dame. And man, these coaches right now, man, instead of pushing for these kids that's these diamonds in the rough, maybe you gotta pay more attention to Justin Scott. Maybe that's what he wants. I don't think he come down to the NIL deal with him. I just think he more about loyalty, man. If you're loyal to him, and he's gonna be loyal to you, man. I really want Justin Scott, man. And then that plugs us in for the 2025 kids. That's the best kids in Chicago.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a good sign that he hasn't committed anywhere else. And I was a little surprised to hear that Miami was fading. And then I feel like Notre Dame has a better chance if we're isolated into like northern schools and you're not competing with some of that weather and all the stuff that goes on when you get down south. I like that. I think that increases Notre Dame's chances. If it ends up being a final group, that's more of those type schools, I like that. I think that increases our chances. I do.
Yeah, John, I really think that if it's a northern school, man, I think that decreases Notre Dame chances because that's the way that he gets to stay in the north and get to stay closer to his mother compared to having to travel all the time down south. I think he wants to be close to Chicago, but he wants to stay in the north where he can be closer to Chicago.
Hey, man, hop on that Skyway, hop on that toll road, baby. Mom can visit you. That's an easy drive. I've made it a million times, man. It's an easy drive, Mom. I'll tell her. I'll drive her. Man, I'll pick her up and drive her if I need to.
John, I'm confident that he will visit Notre Dame in July. And I think the official visit will be when we beat the brakes off the Buckeyes.
Ooh, baby. Now you're speaking my language. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, so I still got us going 11-1, John.
I like it.
And that one loss coming to a great USC team.
Oh,
and it's going to take a great effort to beat Notre Dame.
Man, 11-1 would be a really, really good comeback year too for Marcus Freeman. It would change a lot of things with the narrative and the recruiting and the momentum and the way you're talked about. That would be a huge year. Anything else, my friend? Anything else on your mind? I appreciate the call today.
Yeah. All right, man. That's about it, man. I just hope Justin Scott, man. I hope with getting Tay Johnson last weekend, maybe that'll give Justin Scott like, okay, they are making priority for kids that's in the area.
Yep. Nope, you're right. And Johnson, very athletic kid, playing a little out of position in high school because of some of the depth. Really interesting, but a very, very athletic guy. And a solid get. Hey, thanks a lot for calling, my friend. I'll be back live Friday morning. If you have any thoughts, dial it up.
All right.
Have a good one, my friend. Have a good Wednesday. You take care now. Oh, man, he always calls. His call log is so fat. 503, you're going to be next. I got you. And I've seen you try and call before, and I couldn't get to you. 503, you're going next. I want to give you some time. It's been a while, and when I'm ready to get to you, you have to drop off sometimes. I appreciate the effort. I'm going to get you 503. V1 rotate, V2. This reminds me, I was hoping you were going to comment. Sometimes in the summer when there isn't much going on, I get off on these YouTube tangents, niches. Sometimes it's true crime. Sometimes it's like outer space stuff. Sometimes it's like a Titanic documentary or conspiracy theory on JFK or Vietnam documentaries or just interesting stuff. Is Bigfoot real? Like all this weird like niches. I need to distract my mind in the off season from football and get away from football. One I've stumbled into is airplane disasters. That niche on YouTube, I know that's what V1 Rotate V2 is referencing. I've been getting into those documentaries about like the airliner disasters and what goes wrong when a plane goes down in the ocean, like with 200 people on or whatever. Dude, it's wild. It is very, very interesting and a little bit scary to have in your mind everything that could go wrong. But at the end of the day, you need to realize humans were not made to fly around at 36,000 feet in the air in an aluminum tube. You are messing with destiny when you do that. But that's what we do because we want to get to the beach, right? But like, it is never lost on me. I never take for granted when I fly that I am fully acknowledging and recognizing I am not meant to be flying through the air in an aluminum tube at 36,000 feet. You're asking for something to go wrong with nature. Anyways, V1, that is a $10 hour, and I very much appreciate it. Thank you very much. Just wanted to say I'm so tired of people acting like not winning anything that matters in X amount of years is something only unique to Notre Dame when 95% of every team is standing in the same line we are. Here's the difference, V1. There's a very, very logical response to this. A logical pushback is we have different standards than 95% of those other teams historically. That's where that comes from. That's why it's different. You can't have championship standards if you don't have a bunch of championships you won. And 95% of teams have none of that history we have of being elite, being the best. having the Heismans, having the All-Americans, having all those titles. So that's the difference between us and the night. I acknowledge 95% of the other teams are in the same boat, winning nothing. The difference is they've never won nothing. They've either never won nothing or they barely won anything. They do not have the robust elite history and success and lineage Notre Dame has. That is why there's a different standard and a different bar here in the fans' eyes. That's why, because there was a history of excellence and you want to see that continue. You can't expect excellence if you never had it before. Like, you got to get there at a certain level and amount of times to be able to realistically expect that. Now, let me push back on my own response. I'm fair enough that I can push back on myself. My initial gut response is what I just said to you. If I was going to push back on me in a debate about this, the next thing I would say if I was you is, I would say, John, how long are you going to ride off standards from like when TV was black and white? You got to look at this in the last 35 years. We're just like all those other teams. Absolutely nothing. So how far is that history and all of that old success getting you? Aren't we far enough away from it? You need to come off your high horse and accept that the modern reality is we are 95% of those teams. And if you want to go there, I would have to agree with you factually and then be depressed. And then just be depressed. Like, big picture, my argument makes sense. If you break down the timeline into the modern era, then it falls apart. So I agree with you on that one. But I think that is why that's different with our fan base. 503, I got you. Navy has a new OC who supposedly wants to throw the ball more. Good luck with that. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. There are a lot of advantages to playing Navy week one if you're Notre Dame. The number one advantage is it gives you more time to prep for the unique way that they play. When you're in the season, and it's like game 7 or 8 or whatever, you have those few days in the week to do your Navy prep and then you're in the game. It being game 1, Notre Dame has no excuses not to be fully ready for Navy. You are going to have plenty of time to figure out everybody's role in this. And Navy's a game where some guys that aren't regular everyday starters every week that get a lot of snaps, sometimes they play more in the Navy game because they're better at doing one specific thing you need to do against Navy. Maybe it's looking for the fullback or whatever it is. Like, it's a weird dynamic. So I'm hopeful it being week 1 gives Notre Dame more of a ramp up to be able to build out that defense and have everybody ready to go and on point. What makes me nervous about it is Navy has a lot of a new head coach, a new OC, a new quarterback. Will Navy try and get tricky? Meaning they have a lot of things we don't know about, we're seeing for the first time. Is there any conceivable chance they try and sneak up on Notre Dame with something we're not ready for or expecting week 1 in Ireland? And even if they can draw that stuff up, are they able to execute it against Notre Dame's roster? The other thing you need to consider with Navy's offense is sometimes once you get into the year, the Navy offense takes a while to really get going. It is very rhythm-based and timing-based, making those triple option plays look right and space out and the timing and all that, pitch at the last second, all of that timing stuff. Can Notre Dame disrupt that so that it's not all smooth sailing week 1? Because that's what it's going to take. So it's just a very interesting dynamic. But I do like if Notre Dame's going to play Navy, making it week 1. So you have that prep and get it out of the way and then be done with the old Navy thing week 1 and just be done with it. You already know I don't like that game. It is a no-win game for Notre Dame perceptually, nationally. It is a no-win. An absolute no-win. You beat Navy no matter how good of a team Navy has. If you beat Navy, the national narrative, it's only Navy, it's a service academy. What do you expect? That's the national narrative from everybody else. And if you lose to Navy, no matter how good they are, it doesn't matter. You lost to a service academy, you get ridiculed forever. It's a no-win situation playing Navy. It just is. I don't give me the history. I understand why we play. I'm not having that discussion. We'll do that later in the summer. Comes up every year. We'll have that discussion. So it's going to be interesting how that goes. What else do we got? Couple more, and then we're going to 503. Freeman seems, Jeremy Welling, thanks for being here. Freeman seems confident that the defense will be much improved this year, but I don't know what else he is supposed to say. Yeah, that doesn't do anything for me. Doesn't do anything for me. You know how many years I saw Notre Dame coaches get up there and say they felt confident about the team, and then they're absolutely terrible all year? Like, I don't care what these guys say. I want to see what it looks like. I want to see what it looks like. I really do. Anders says, I agree, V1. Nobody outside the SEC is winning anything. Yeah, well, that's an interesting way to look at it. Brian Farmer, why do people say we don't have 5 stars in this class? It's not their fault their rankings get changed. Yeah, I mean, you can argue that. Like, you could argue that. What do you want CJ Carr to do other than be really good and be what he is? Like, I get that. I guess it's just a matter of if there's bona fide 5-star guys out there with that label somewhere, you want them to be on your team. Like, I guess whatever they're going to change and adjust and guys move up and down in the ratings and drop or whatever the calculation is that has 5 stars by a guy's name, you want some of them on your team. That's all it is. But yeah, it's not Cam Williams' fault. It's not CJ Carr's fault. But whatever the reason is, guys with 5 stars, I wanted some of them by our logo. Crying belly. Happy to hear John talk about our players. If you listen to most of his shows, you'd think Freeman is the only player and there's only bums on our squad. No, not at all, actually. It's just I have very logical and practical questions about this roster and how it's currently constructed and how they're going to play when we get into the season. But I don't know why, if anything, I take heat for being too positive with Freeman from you, crying. So shouldn't you be saying I'm the other way? Now you're saying I'm too negative, but when I'm positive, you rip me for not ripping Marcus Freeman. I can't make you happy, crying. When I'm too positive, you tell me Freeman doesn't deserve it. And then when I start asking questions, then you accuse me of calling the whole team bums. Guys like you, I'm never going to be able to make happy. I'm always on one side or the other. I can't win with you. I'm either too high on Freeman and what he's doing, or now on the other side, I'm calling everybody bums. I don't think either one of them are the reality. I don't know. 503-707 after that. Good morning, 503. What's going on?
Good morning, John. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, my friend. This is an interesting topic today. We're starting to get into worrying a little bit about the actual roster on the field this year, getting away from the future recruiting. What areas of the team do you trust and which ones do you have question marks about and why?
All right, let's start with positions I feel comfortable with. I really love the running back core. There was the last caller mentioned, was it Love? Well, who I'm excited about the most is Jadarian Price. So not this spring, but the spring before, he really blew up in that spring game. And then he blew his knee. I can't remember now.
I'm telling you, that was the number one thing I'm remembering being at that spring game. And it was a big deal. I wanted to be there because it was Freeman's first one as the head guy. And I wanted to feel that. Yeah, I wanted to feel that vibe and everything. The number one thing that flashed more than anything else that entire ball game, the number one memory I have was JD Price hitting the edge and burning it all the way down the field, running by everybody. And me and my dad looked at each other like, oh, that's different. Like you, when you see a burst, you know is different. You know it's different. And that burst was different. Now, I understand they're saying he's healthy. He's going to be cleared for camp. that doesn't mean he's going to have the same pop in those legs after the injury. That's my question. That's structurally
that's the biggest question.
Structurally, he could be healthy, but is he still going to have that pop? That's my only worry because I love the way he looked.
Well, what I am excited about is if he can get back to 100% the way he played in that spring game. Can you imagine with Estime and Price, you rotate them back and forth? I mean, you're set. I mean, that's why I think Logan Diggs left too, is when he didn't want to be here, and then he saw writing on the wall. And we are really good depth-wise at running back. I'm really comfortable there. I feel really good. I don't really know much about the running back coach, but I mean, I feel like he's doing a really good job. I mean,
yeah, I agree.
You know, when we had Taylor, I felt pretty good about him too. But I think this guy is a better running back coach and better at recruiting. Maybe I could be wrong.
And my worry is, I worry we're going to lose him because people were already going after him from the NFL last year. His name was talked about, and Freeman was able to do what he had to do, get him to stick around. But that's the issue. I'm worried that the NFL is going to come for him. And I'm also worried about that in the wide receiver coaching room too, because Stuckey's doing such a great job. People are after him. Both those guys are doing a good job of recruiting and development. And so, yeah, it's interesting. Like the Diggs thing hurt because it was a known entity that you were losing at running back. But I agree with you. There may be bigger potential with some of these younger guys. Mm-hmm. We just haven't seen enough yet to be able to experience it. But you need some lightning to balance out the thunder of Estime. And I'm just wondering who that's going to be early.
I think it's Price. I legit, if he's 100%, like I said, I think we could see him rotating, you know, and then you have Love in the mix and you go from there. And then, you know, the offensive line, I'm actually more excited about the offensive line this year than last year. I think losing Harry Hiestand is not a big loss, in my opinion. I wasn't really thrilled that we brought him back. I wanted to bring in, you know, elite offensive line coach. And I was thinking, why can't we go after, you know, the Chiefs, you know, offensive line coach, you know, Andy Heck. But, you know, things just don't work out that way. But, you know, we can all dream.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I can see so many ways where things come together this year and they just kind of flow and they work and the units develop and you have a leader out there in each of these groups and like it all comes together. I could see it. But I could also see scenarios where this kind of starts falling apart at the seams little by little, maybe an injury here, an injury there, and then this and that. Like it could just go so many ways with so many of these position groups. I don't want to overdo my worry, but it's like, I think I have more defensive worries than some other people do, judging from the chat on defense. I have more things I'm uncomfortable with. And again, I want to repeat. Doesn't mean I'm saying they're going to be bad. It just means I do not feel I'm in a position to trust them at this moment to perform well enough that I'm like, we're going to beat Ohio State and I trust that defense to get it done. I'm just not there yet.
Well, my biggest problem with the defense, just, you know, more on a negative topic, I would say I don't really think the corners are really going to step up like I want them to. I just feel like it's Benjamin Morrison and everyone else. And I really wish we could just have another one of him and then we're kind of set back there. And then hopefully we can get like, you know, a safety just, you know, to step up. I know that, you know, a lot of people are concerned about the defensive line and, you know, I think it's kind of like a make or break, you know, year for a lot of the coaches on defense. Like, you know, I think Al Golden, he really needs to step up because the biggest game I felt like he struggled coaching the most was, you know, the USC game and how everyone just looked so lost out there, you know.
We could
And
third down
really
killed
think
us
about
too. Two things with that. Number one is we could not get off the field on third down. And I also understand the officiating was terrible. So I'm going to mention it, but I'm not going to blame the whole game on that. They didn't call 87 holds against our guys. But I'm not going to lean on that as an excuse. But getting off the field on third down was a huge problem in that game. The other thing I noticed is, especially in the second half, we were giving up way too much yardage on early down run plays. If you're giving up 6 yards on a first down run to USC, then you're giving the Heisman caliber quarterback multiple plays to gain 3 or 4 more yards. You're feeding right into the guy. That cannot happen again. And it happened last year, and I hated it.
Right. I mean, that was the biggest issue. I mean, like, I won't even get mad at Drew Pine because I actually felt like, everyone could think I'm crazy all you want, but I actually think he didn't have a bad game per se. If you take into account the defense just literally didn't show up. If they put at least an ounce of effort, we would have won that game, hands down.
Yeah. And here's what I always say about Drew Pine. I do not blame Drew Pine for any of his pininess. He is what he is. He has physical limitations that just cannot be overcome, that are always going to limit what he's capable of doing on a football field because of his stature and arm strength and experience and whatever else. I never blamed any of that on Drew Pine. My argument would have been we should never be in a position where we're one play away that Drew Pine is Notre Dame's starting quarterback. That is a different argument than blaming Drew Pine. I'm blaming whoever thought Drew Pine at 5'2" was going to, and not being fast, was going to be Notre Dame's quarterback. Like, that's the part I have a problem with, is that I never want to be in a position where I'm one play away from having to rely on Drew Pine to save the year. I have a problem with whatever process led us down that.
Well, John, the thing is, I don't like to just judge players by, their star level, but like, he's a borderline below, like a low 4-star quarterback. I mean, I know he did get big offers, but like, he just wasn't dynamic. You could almost say he's like a poor man's version of Ian Book. And, it might be rude to say, but I mean, I think if you put Ian Book on this team last year, I mean, he could have done something better. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Ian Book could have. Yeah, no, Ian Book could have. And the other thing is he's a much more gifted runner, too. Like, in a different way than Pine is. Yeah, he could have done more there. And he's got a bigger arm than Pine or whatever, more experience, too. But the bigger point is, man, neither Pine or Ian Book are what I'm looking for from Notre Dame's quarterback. Like neither of those guys are what I picture Notre Dame's quarterback looking like when we win a playoff game, for example. Neither one of those guys fit the profile.
John, you need to have at least like a 6'2", 220-pound quarterback, pocket passer, throw it deep, and that's something that Notre Dame's been lacking for years. Another thing I was going to mention about the offensive line was with Harry Heasan. A lot of the times, when we got in big games, we would get, humiliated. And I'm really excited with the new offensive line coach. I'm really curious how we are going to play in the trenches with Ohio State.
Yep. And you know what? Let me ask you this. That's a very good question. Something on my mind too, because it's two things. One part of it is fundamentals, what it's going to look like, blocking schemes, how you want to do all that kind of stuff. But the other part of offensive line play and dominant offensive line play is mentality. That is something I'm very, very interested in. So much of offensive line play comes down to your mentality. And I want to know what kind of vibe Rudolph's kind of putting in the mix there as far as getting in these guys' minds about the idea that we're out there to knock people around and kill them. I want to see that mentality, that anger, that viciousness. Somebody brought it up earlier. That's the way Michigan's been running the ball on Ohio State the last 2 years they beat them, is with that vicious offensive line, tough guy mentality. It didn't work out in the playoff against better talent, but against Ohio State, those guys were bullying them, and I need to see that from our crew.
Right. Well, I mean, we can only dream that we could just get another Joe Moore and just call it a day.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I want to mention off topic, and someone mentioned it before. So I've been hearing some reports with Under Armour.
Yeah.
I thought they were backing out of football. Am I crazy? I could have sworn you said that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, here's what I think is happening. All right, my understanding was that they're backing away from like taking on new teams for Under Armour and kind of expanding their college football outfitting outfit, I guess. That they're not looking to do that as much anymore or take on a bunch more teams and grow that part of their business. But I think they do value the Notre Dame contract. So like both can be true at the same time, where they're not like looking to take on any team as an Under Armour outfitter. But with Notre Dame, I think they value them, and they're in an iffy financial position for different reasons. But I don't know, man. Something must happen, because I got a string of text messages right when I started this show saying it looks like it's going to be Under Armour again. Sure. So maybe they ponied up a big deal because they're more desperate to keep the Notre Dame brand in-house. I don't know.
Honestly, I just want to try Nike. I think it attracts more recruits. And, you know, everyone talks about recruiting time and time again because that's the most important thing, you know, in college football. I just think, you know, having Nike would bring in maybe elite talent. And honestly, I think Under Armour is kind of just, I don't know. I mean, you've mentioned a lot of the time, like, safety. And is Notre Dame just wanting to just go with the highest bidder because, you know, it looks okay but doesn't feel okay? Like, I'd rather wear something that feels okay. I don't even care if it's like the worst brand, but if it's keeping your players safe, you know, that's more important, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion. I did reference that one study one of those colleges did, the athletic department or the whatever, where they found that the Under Armour cleats tend to have more lower body injury, lower leg injuries than the Nike cleats and Adidas or whatever. I don't know. Maybe they figured that part out. But I don't know. If they go with Under Armour again, I just hope we got more money and we could use it for stuff. I don't know what else to say. If that's what they're going to do, give us more money and then we could do something with it. I don't know.
I'm not banking on the Under Armour. I'm going to believe it till I see it type of scenario. I don't buy it one bit. You know how things are. You know, people could say, oh, Marcus Freeman decided to just leave and go to the NFL. Like, that wouldn't happen, but I'm just, saying an example. You know how social media is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking forward to the season. I'm a little concerned about Navy. But then again, I'm not, because we've had months to prepare for Navy.
Yeah.
I think we all know what we're going to expect. They're going to just run their triple option. I don't see them just throwing the ball and just playing a full on, air raid offense like it's Oklahoma. That's just not realistic. I'm sorry. I've been watching football for a very long time, and I've seen Navy, and I really don't see them doing that much. I honestly wish we didn't play them in Ireland. I wish we could just have a regular game that would start at 11:30 and just call it even, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't get us with that. Like, I just want it done and over with. I don't like playing Navy. I think it's the worst game.
Yep.
Me too. I said it before.
It is my least favorite game. It is my least favorite game to watch on Notre Dame's schedule every single year my entire life. It is visually my least favorite Notre Dame game to watch. I just hate it. I hate the way the game looks. I hate it.
And, Navy, I think it was Navy that, stacked up the line and made, Tommy Reese's offense look like crap, which it is. But that whole game, I still watch that game. I'm just like, they almost won that game. Navy almost beat us.
Yep.
And they were throwing the ball.
Dude, the fullback had a million yards. It's like the one thing you cannot do against a triple option team is let the fullback always find a lane and carry a bunch of yards on you. And we allowed it. If the game would have gone on a few more minutes, we probably would have lost it. I 100% expect Al Golden to have that all figured out. And you have no excuse not to, with it being week 1. You have all the time you need to prep for it. You have no excuse to not have that figured out week 1. You should be hammering it out in camp and have it all figured out.
I think, on a worst case scenario, I think we just win that game like a 21-17 scenario. That's the worst case, but on a good day,
it should be a blowout.
Blow them
out. Yeah, where we're up in the 40s and Hartman's throwing it and getting behind guys and we're running it and you get up in the 40s. And then if they put together a couple drives and it's 42-21 or something, you could take it. But that would be a really good opportunity for Sam Hartman in this offense to show that things are going to be different, because if you are ever going to be able to throw the ball around, even with inexperienced wide receivers, it should be against Navy. And so I'm hoping that is the introduction to a more electric passing game that we'll see starting then.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we got we start with Navy, and then who is it next?
Tennessee State.
Michigan?
Tennessee State.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And then,
the cheerleaders.
And then NC State, and then back home for CMU.
I mean, honestly, we could probably have, Ron Paulus or something, or, whatever, start that game. I mean.
I hope.
The team,
Hey, listen, man, didn't you learn anything from Marshall and Stanford last year? I don't know that I could take anything for granted, because anytime anybody just goes through the schedule and blows by a team, I'm sorry, Marshall and Stanford come into my mind. 17.5-point favorites at home, and you totally no-showed twice, and it's just not okay.
No, I mean, I don't know, John. I mean, I really don't know. I mean, we got a quarterback that can actually throw it past 10 yards, which, I mean, that's been a long time. And there's actually potentially might actually be able to throw it deep,
Yeah, that's wild to think about, isn't it? It's very wild to think about.
I really don't know what the play calling. I honestly kind of want them to do something like what they used to do with the Steelers, bring up NFL, where Ben Roethlisberger most of the time would call the plays. I honestly would love if Hartman was just like, you know what, let's just do this and just, fucking go 5 wide and just rip in the shreds. Yeah. I love that. I love all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, listen, John, I have to go. I'll it's been nice. I'll call in next time I'm available.
Beautiful, man. Thanks for the call. Really appreciate it. Have a good Wednesday. All right, man.
You too.
Take it easy. Man, we got nice callers in this show. 707, you're coming up next. The Ohio podcast. I just came to see if John Kennedy's doing any more videos with women's underwear in the ads. It was distracting me. I'm sorry, man. Maybe I should have a stronger mind that I didn't let that distract me. But if you saw my video I did yesterday, I was reading that article saying Notre Dame's never going to win again. And I wanted to read the article and react to it live. And there were these advertisements on the side, and it was like bras and negligees and thong panties and whatnot. And they just kept popping up in my face as I'm reading this. And it distracted me. I'm sorry. And I made a comment about it, and I'm sorry. It was just funny. Pat, you're just describing Marist. I'm predicting that the linebackers will be way better this year. They have a lot of depth. Snead's going to be really good. He's a tackling machine. Go figure, everyone. It's the shock of the day that Patrick Cotter and Andrew Gilmore are going back and forth, not agreeing on something. God, I love those guys so much. Speaking of that, I'm wondering if any or all of you are interested in a Saturday night show. We haven't done that for a while. I have been on vacation. Last week, I had something going on in town. I had to be at all night, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I was committed. I'm good to go for a Saturday night show this week. So if we all want to crank it up, maybe we'll light some fireworks in the studio, make it a 4th of July special. Yeah, that's all I need to be shooting Roman candles off down here. Chief Brody, good to see you. It's good to see you, the Chief. Oh, man. Pat's mad about the linebackers. 707, I got you. Get through one more string of comments here. The linebackers didn't play under control, and until they do, I have no faith. The front seven as a whole is suspect till they show themselves. The problem is the few talent they had in the front seven's gone. Well, on the low end, let's go on the worrisome end. Let's go err on the side of being extra concerned and cautious. Yeah, that's the problem I have, Pat. The worries he's bringing up are the exact ones that I have then. But that front seven, again, like the defensive line, I told you guys, Notre Dame lost 4 out of their 6 top tacklers out of that group last year and almost over half of the sacks. By definition, that has to be a concern. You're not allowed to say you trust what we're going to get when you lost that kind of production. You're irresponsible. That's how far I'm going to take this. When you're losing 4 of your 6 top tacklers there and over half of the sack production, how can anybody tell me they're going into the year feeling comfortable and confident in that area? I don't know how you can do it and mean it because you haven't seen it. So unless you're just saying blind faith, I want it to be good, so I'm going to manifest it in my mind and convince myself it's good, that's a little tough to me, man. How are you going to do that? Now let's see Andrew's pushback. That is so silly, Pat. Those targeting calls are so split second. Did you play football? I'll take a guy like Bertrand any day. When he's on the field, he's a magnet to the football. So we got some going back and forth. And then Pat saying he played and coached and he knows how to do tackling. Is this what this is going to turn into? Do I got to line you guys up and do the Oklahoma drill and see what's happening? Who gets the leverage here or what? Oh, man. How about we drop Navy altogether? I do agree with this. I think that if you're going to play Navy every year to honor your thanking them for their help during the wartime and all that, keeping Notre Dame afloat, if you're going to play Navy every year, I think what you do is you tell them it's year 1 or we're not doing it. Week 1, not year 1. We're doing it week 1 or we're not doing it. So then I would just tell them, if you want to make this a thing and we're going to keep doing this, make it earlier in the year for the advantages that I mentioned for Notre Dame so that you can properly prepare for it in an adequate time frame. And you're not jammed in there with a few days of practice to change everything you're doing and some of the personnel to get ready for a more option type team. That's how I'd look at that. Pat, Bertrand would teach you how to tackle. Most targeting plays are unavoidable. Let's see what the good chief says. I really like the way the schedule sets up, actually. Get Navy out of the way. I agree with that. Take care of the FCS. I agree with that. Then you handle Central Michigan and NC State. You catch fire. You play a ton of games before the first bye. Well, here's what I like. Here's what I like about this schedule. Number one is one of your biggest games of the year against a ultra talented team isn't right away. I like that for Notre Dame, all right? Unless you do something stupid, you should be able to ease into the year with some wins, gain some confidence. You don't have to play perfect week 1 to win. You should have some margin for error because of the talent difference between you and Navy. That's what I like. If Notre Dame just doesn't do anything dumb and awful, They should have an undefeated record, be shooting up the rankings, and have a boatload of confidence leading into Ohio State. That is vastly different than, say, last year, where your biggest game of the year was the first game of the year, and then you lost it, and all the momentum goes out of the balloon. It's deflated. We're Notre Dame. You feel like you have to be undefeated to make the playoff. We haven't made it with one loss, even though we've been close. So it had you feeling like week one, some of your biggest goals were probably over right away. And so that's why I like it. You should be able to gain some momentum and be undefeated, rise in the rankings. I like the way that sets up too. As long as, marshal yourself before Ohio State. You can't get marshaled. Unacceptable. So as long as that doesn't happen, I like the way this schedule sets up running into Ohio State. I agree with that fully. Oh, geez. Now we're debating tackling form. I don't think I expected that first thing in the morning, but I appreciate it very much. Mark with glasses. He coached tackling, so it sounds like Pat Cotter might be an option for an Al Golden replacement. Al needs to step up, or I would encourage him, if it doesn't look a lot better and a lot more reliable and a lot more consistent this year, if you don't do a better job getting off the field on third downs, if you don't do a better job defending the red zone second to last and allowing touchdowns in that area last year, if you get ran on too much again, I'm going to encourage Al Golden to retire or hook up with one of his buddies in the NFL again. We need to go a different direction. That Notre Dame defense was kind of loose last year in a way I'm not used to recently, to where I didn't quite have the same automatic trust level that I've been used to having. And that makes me nervous. I needed to tighten up this year. Just be more consistent. Be more consistent. See you later, Pat. He's got to go. Maybe he's got a tea time. Nah, he usually plays at like 5:30 in the morning. Usually plays first thing in the morning. Yeah, Terrence says, Price is coming off that Achilles and Love is a monster. Those are the issues I have. You could tell me Price is physically rehabbed and structurally 100% back in the mix. But does he have that burst? That's the question. How much of that burst did he lose in that rehab and in that surgery and all that? We just have to wait and see. And everybody tells me Love is a monster. I just have reservations putting that much faith in a guy that isn't even here yet that we haven't seen. So that's the only thing. Like, I am ecstatic about what the future might look like for Love. It's just, I can't bank on somebody I haven't even seen do anything here yet. Like, I mean, that's a lot of pressure. I mean, Notre Dame pressure is different, but that's a different level. Kenny Galley, what's going on? Ooh, look at this. Notre Dame football on Blue and Gold. Here's something that's going on. I said earlier, my routine's been all messed up all last week. Wasn't able to be on Twitter. I had obligations every single day last week. We might set something up where Mike Singer from Blue and Gold can join the program and explain to us more in depth about some of the recruiting rankings, how that works, how those guys move. Some of the questions I have about that, of how these guys move so much in the offseason without real games. Did the camps mean that much? Like, what goes into all that? Mike Singer has generously offered to join us and give us some more insight into that from kind of the inside of his operation. So we're going to try and get that scheduled. I got to get back to him and find a good time. I would love to have that discussion just so that we can all better understand that equation and how some of that movement happens, when and why. When and why. The Ohio podcast. Chief Brody, Kyle McCord is more of a game manager. I don't foresee a lot of turnovers from him, but I also don't think he's as good of a thrower as a guy like CJ Stroud. And the other thing that I didn't realize till I joined the Ohio podcast last week, by the way, Sunday night, go check it out on their channel. Johnny on the other side of the interview table. And he was saying that McCord's been around a while, just because he hasn't started, but he's been around a while. It's not like he's new to campus or whatever. The guy does have some of that experience of being around. Look at that. Thanks for the compliment there, Blue and Gold guys. Sure is, Brody. John's the only other ND YouTuber I watch. I appreciate that very much. Listen, people may not always agree with all my takes, and I might be a little wacky, but I guarantee you this. Nobody does Notre Dame football coverage the way I do. I'm not saying that is better or worse than the way anybody else does it. I'm not saying my information's better or worse or more accurate or anything. I'm not saying I have the most logical takes that everybody has to agree with. All I'm saying is, I can assure you, nobody does Notre Dame football coverage like this program. Oh, man. Ooh, a little hit by Blue and Gold. I'd call in, but he'd take an hour to take my call. Mikey, I got to tell you this. The time that I didn't get to you, it was a Saturday night, one of the weekend shows, and I had a lot of calls, and they were buried down the list. I had to scroll down to even see that Mike was waiting. Otherwise, I would have brought him up right away. And so I do feel bad that I made him wait, because I wouldn't want to do that to him on purpose. But we had an abnormally high call load, and it was below the scroll line, and I didn't see him. Otherwise, there's no way I would have made him wait an hour. No way I would have made him wait. 707, what's going on today?
Hey, don't worry about him. He's a punk singer. He got me kicked out of that Blue and Gold chat because I hurt his feelings, that freaking punk.
Look at you, man. The last time you called in, you went after somebody on my behalf. And now this time you're calling in, you're going after somebody on my behalf. But
I really don't like, that guy's just a clown in your chat, but that singer is a punk. I just cannot. It's a whole different level of my, I don't want to say hatred, but
wow. Did you
a scumbag.
Did you deserve it when you got kicked out? Did you deserve it? What did you say that earned you this?
No. What he did was, I was on his YouTube channel telling him how wrong he is about things, and he wound up going and taking that back to my name in the Blue and Gold chat. So he got me kicked out of there, and it wasn't even there that I was dissing him.
Wow.
But he's a punk, Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of.
But anyway, I was also going to go after Patrick Cotter too, because he said earlier in the chat how Notre Dame's defensive line is small and slow, and I have a post here that I was going to put in so that he could read it and see the size of these guys. And there it is. And that's not even including, guys like Anye, who's a big boy.
Yeah.
And 31, it doesn't really matter the size when they're good. Like 47, I think, is another guy that is a good player without having the size. And the same thing with Botelho. He's probably the best defensive lineman they have, and he's only 6'3" and 255. So you can't really say size, because if there's guys that are nose for the football sense is better than size.
Yeah.
And determination and all that stuff. So I'm not too worried about this defensive line. I didn't include Vernon,
Yeah.
I didn't include Gobira.
Yeah, and some of that's going to depend, like with Vernon. I don't know how you do that. Maybe they're still working on his body and building him up and want a red shirt, like it'll be his first year and all that. Yeah. I get that.
He's only 250.
Yeah.
He's only 250, but the kid's a freshman. I mean, what was Zorich when he played as a freshman,
Yeah.
Zorich probably got to 270.
And I'm going to tell you this right now, and I know I've mentioned this before, and it's not about, John is important or anything, but I do know Brendan Vernon's family, and on Memorial Day weekend, his dad was sending me videos of him running straight up a big road, straight uphill in some training contest program, shirt off, sweating like a wreck, running up and down, carrying tires, doing all that stuff. Like, that guy is working on his body, and I respect it. and I want to see it pay off.
Yeah. And you know who, speaking of seeing the tapes, and I saw Vernon, he just looks so much better than everybody else of his clips. And I was watching all the defensive linemen. But you know who I want us to get very badly is this kid, Trey Harrison. Did you see any clips on him yet?
Yeah, a couple. Not a lot, but I saw something on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, he was number 4 when he came to whatever this Irish thing was during June, whatever they call it. But that kid can cover. I mean, they showed him do about 4 plays in a row, and 3 of them he just dominated the guy, and the 4th one was a pass that was overthrown, but he was right on him. So it was like, they got to get that kid no matter what it takes, you know?
Yeah.
I want to see him on the Irish. I love that kid.
Yeah.
I hope he comes.
Yep. Hey, can I ask you, what are your thoughts about playing Navy week 1? I think if you're ever going to play them, that's the best time for Notre Dame because it lets you ease into the prep for the uniqueness of that game. Do you agree with that? I actually like getting it out of the way right away if we got to do it.
Well, I like it because of the fact that they work hard all game. Like, they'll never quit. So Notre Dame's going to have to learn how to play hard from the get-go.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. You know, they're never going to give up. I mean, I don't know. They got a new OC and a new head coach. Maybe they're going to try and sneak up on us. Somebody said they like to try and throw the ball more with that new offensive coordinator. I don't know if Navy can even make that work, but it's going to be interesting to see.
Well, they're going to have to rely on beating the linebackers. They're going to have to rely on quickness, right? Because our talent level is good, but they're not big. So, you know, if they want to throw the ball, they're going to have to rely on like really precise route running and getting open to get a pass. So,
yeah,
and that could happen. I mean, you know, I don't trust the Notre Dame linebackers. Like, everyone's. Botelho was the guy that got kicked out of those 2 games, 2 in a row or whatever that was. Gilmore was saying it was Bertrand, but it was actually Botelho.
Yeah. And I just don't know. There's so many things that I want to have confidence in, but I have anxiety about it. And I just can't count them as being okay till I see that they're okay with my own eyes in the right moments. And I'm not trying to be negative. There's certain things I just don't know. I want to feel better about that defensive front, but until I see you do the job against Ohio State, you're a question mark to me. Is that not fair?
Yeah.
Or am I being negative again?
No, I think so much of it is about attitude. Like, these kids have to be hungry, like just refuse to lose every single play. You know, like, that's what I haven't seen, and especially from linebackers. I've never seen Notre Dame be so bad for so many years with linebackers. They run with their head down when they go into the line. They don't look for the ball. And when I saw Drake Bowen play, that kid's always around the ball because he's always got his head up looking for the ball.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see Drake Bowen step in, you know, Mr. Indiana or Chicago or Illinois or whatever.
Yep,
he was.
I believe it was Mr. Football Indiana, and he was playing injured a lot of the year and grinding it out, making plays back there. I'm telling you, that's a guy who has future Notre Dame defensive captain written all over him already. I see those traits, and I love that.
Well, he plays with his head up, and I don't see that with the Notre Dame guys. When they go into the line for a blitz, they're not looking for the ball. They're just looking to hit somebody, and that's not good enough.
Yeah, and a lot of things need to come together here. And the other thing is, listen, man, here's the other part of this. When I was looking at these groups and where do you feel good about or nervous about or whatever, that's assuming perfect health. That's the other thing. Right. You're not getting through the year with all these starters being the starters every week. So that's a different discussion too about some of the depth in some of these areas. But I am open to this idea. This has been rolling around in my mind. Even if I have some anxiety about the defense and I'm worried about some things on that side of the ball, if Hartman is just himself, I think that alone builds the defense more margin for error. We're going to have the ball for we're going to have the ball longer each game. We should be putting up more points than we did last year. That all gives that defense a little more breathing room to not have to do 2012 style where you only give up 9 points a game every game to be able to win. I'm encouraged about that.
Yes, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
You get an offense that can eat up some clock and give these kids a rest on defense, especially the line, because they aren't huge, but this year they're not going to be bad. I mean, Riley Mills is going to be a good plug in the middle. Finally, I think he's going to step up.
Yeah. And you
because
always,
he's a big boy and he's fast.
Yeah. Here's the other thing that you need. When I'm looking at what's it going to take for Notre Dame to have what we consider a very, very good year, a great year, you need your dudes to be dudes, meaning the guys are expected to be your leaders and your producers need to do it. And then you need lesser known guys to step up and claim some of that too. So that's where like Riley Mills becomes a force, or Botello. We finally see unleash the power of all of Botello hitting people. Like we need some of those guys to step up. Can Merriweather become a weekly name that we all want to see him get a bunch of balls thrown to him? Like for Notre Dame to have a great year, the dudes that we know are dudes have to still be dudes, and I need new dudes to be dudes.
Right.
If that makes sense. That's a lot of dudes. It's a lot of dudes, but you know what I mean? Like you need to get the benefit of these surprises that are good surprises is what I'm saying. Some of those guys where you go, man, I didn't know I could rely on that guy to this extent, but I'm damn sure glad I can now. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty optimistic. I mean, granted, they have a tough schedule. They have to beat USC, but it's at home.
Yeah.
And they have to beat Ohio State, but it's at home. And they have to beat Clemson, I'm thinking keep your eye on them because they are going to be good this year, I think. I think that guy Klubnik is good.
Yeah. Here's what I think they're going to get the benefit of. I think nationally, a lot of the smoke around Clemson is faded away. Not the Canadian wildfire smoke. I'm getting all that in my area today, but different kind of smoke has come off Clemson, and they lost a few games, and people are like, out of sight, out of mind, their time is over. Dabo doesn't go away that easy. They are going to be improved. I'm confident they're going to have a good defense. They got that new offensive coordinator. Klubnik has it'll be a new dynamic for him. I expect them to be a lot better as well, and it'd be a mistake to count them out. However, I got a lot of things I got to worry about before I get to that game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But most of the smoke you hear about Clemson, it comes from the SEC because they resent that, they dominated for 3 years, so
yeah.
The SEC doesn't like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Nope. You're definitely right. And so I don't know. And you talk about this a lot, and it's another concern of mine. We talk about up front on the defense. Are you confident with the pieces that are around Morrison on the back end of this defense?
I think we're going to be pretty good. I mean, it remains to be seen how they call their defenses, but I'm thinking we're going to be seeing a lot of 4-2-5s, and so I think that'll be helpful having an extra. But it's really going to depend on the defensive line being able to penetrate, and that's where I'm hoping that's where we can be better, and we have to be better. So
yeah,
we have to be able to apply pressure. But I'm expecting John Baptiste to do something good, but I shouldn't really, because as somebody pointed out, he got moved out because of a better kid coming in.
It was just funny the way you said it. Like, oh yeah, I'm confident that it's going to be okay, but I really shouldn't be. Like, but wait. But you could argue that, man.
To believe it, right?
But my argument is,
have sacks or something.
My argument is, if he was that awesome, one of two things would have already happened. He would be in the NFL already, or he'd be starting for Ohio State in that position. So it automatically tells me something. Does it not automatically tell me something?
You can say the same thing about Hartman, can't you?
Yeah, I absolutely could say the same thing about Hartman. The difference is the level there is still from where Hartman is to where Notre Dame's quarterbacking left off last year. There's still a huge there's still a huge gap.
Yeah.
That's the difference. I agree with you. That's a good point. But what Artman brings just with the experience and body of work is still a significant upgrade over what we had last year. By the way, is Drew Pine going to start at Arizona State? Do we know that? Is he going to start?
If he does, they're in trouble.
I mean, it's just intriguing to me. And by the way, don't let me forget to ask this question. Have we found out do we think Buckner's going to start? I never heard another word about how they ended the spring. Like, where's he at in the pecking order? That's very interesting to me.
Well, it's funny because Milroe is the same kind of a player, except he's a little bigger, but they both depend on their feet to, their running game to make the pass work for them. So, Milroe isn't that much. I mean, Buckner's older, but Milroe probably has more game experience. So
yeah,
the edge might be to Milroe to start, but we'll see what Buckner can do.
Yeah,
I'm kind of rooting for the kid.
But then my question is, if he doesn't start and play a lot, then my question is, what is the advantage of making that move going over to Alabama? The degree is certainly not better. Unless, did he already get his Notre Dame degree and got to add? Then that's a moot point if he did. But it would indicate to me a real frustration with this situation here. And he just needed a change in scenery. And I don't blame him for that. He's a good kid and I want him to succeed. And I wanted it to be here and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I find it very odd that he went to go where Rees went, but, maybe he has a better thing with Rees than I thought. So
yeah, but the fact is, he just joined the guy who went out and got the guy that was the reason that he's not going to start, which is why he wanted to leave. It's just so Notre Dame-y to have this stuff happen. He's following the guy that he should probably be mad at that got a guy that's going to start over him that made him want to leave. It's just hilarious to me, all the mental gymnastics in play.
Well, the thing is, he definitely wasn't going to start with Notre Dame, so he has a chance to start with and get under the tutelage of a guy like Saban. So
yeah,
I think Rees is there and he knows him, so maybe he'll be more comfortable with him, but knows what to expect from him. But not even that, because he hasn't played enough to even know what to expect of him. But when he has played, he hasn't been terrible. He only generated 10 points through 3 quarters against Ohio State last year. But then again, they had the lead 10-7, going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So they lost 21-10. I'm expecting us to beat Ohio State. I really am.
Yeah.
It just depends on the tenacity that they come in with. They have to just be balls out, go after it. Just go out, attack just like a Navy team does, just don't stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they can win.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. It's going to be interesting, but this is just such a big pivot year, man. Right in between and the new playoff era coming in, the roster's changing a lot. You got kind of lucky with this quarterback thing working out that you have a guy that you feel good about. Like Notre Dame needs to have a good year here. This is a pivotal moment here. And you don't want to say it, but it all kind of starts with Ohio State, assuming nothing dumb happens before. Anything else, my friend? Really nice touch and base with you, even though you have some anger in you this week. Both times I've taken your call, you had anger on the front end, my friend.
Well, I finally got a little angry because you never put my posts up there, because maybe you agree with me on everything I'm saying, so you don't need to address it.
No, you know what happens? No, here's what happens is I get behind. Like I have 25 minutes of posts that are up that are good before I go live, and I don't want to skip them all. So then if I start reading them, but I'm taking calls, I end up not matching what I'm saying with the chats because I'm behind. And I got to figure out a way to try and catch up so it's all in the moment. Then nothing will get by me if I see them coming one by one. But when I got 50 messages from before I go live, I feel obligated to catch up. Then I'm behind and whatever. So nothing's easy, but I'll try and do better for you.
All right, man. Thank you for taking the call, and go Irish, and God bless all.
There we go. What a good message. Thank you, my friend. Good touch and base with you. Good touching base with you. All right, folks, that's going to do it for the show. I'm going to record something else right when I get done with this that'll come out tomorrow. Something more on the kind of fun end of Notre Dame that I'm sure you're all going to have an opinion on. So I'm going to record that. That'll go out tomorrow. We're going to go live Friday. If people want to, we'll go live Saturday again. I haven't done that in a while. It's time to crank that back up. So I think we're going to plan on doing a late night Saturday show. I got some articles coming out. We got the Hartman autograph event coming up. We got a lot going on, folks. And then we're going to get into the ramp up to the real season here, and I'm excited for it. So thanks everybody for being here. All of the chats really engaging, really good. The callers, fantastic. We got a good little group here, and I can't wait to see what this looks like. Yeah, we're going to do a Friday call-in, but it'll be in the morning. The normal morning call-in Friday, and then we'll do Saturday night. Yeah, we'll do that. But this is a fun little core group we have. And I'm very excited to see how it grows when we get in the season and a bunch of other people flood back into football that just don't have it in them to be crazy about it in the offseason. We're going to do some good numbers. We're going to have some interesting blends in here of opinions. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Be safe, be well, treat each other somewhat decent. Talk to you on the flip side.